They were actually having a decent conversation in Pal Talk this morning in Prime's room. I was really enjoying it, but I had to run, man. I was starting to fall behind. I spent like 40 minutes in that room, and I was like 10 or 11 calls down, and the mornings are the worst. They're just the worst over here. I had a ton of texts, and I had 5 emails I had to return, and so it's time to start doing more repairs, and I went over and I pulled this off the shelf. This is 667. It's got Toshibas in it. Let's see here. Let's turn our gain down a little bit. So it's got Toshibas in it. We don't have any magic smoke, but I can't help but make the observation that the combiner has been pulled out of it and it's missing its tuning capacitor, which would be up here. So I don't know. Called the customer, got approval to do the work, and he sent me a cutesy little love note. I sent you this Texas Star 667V for repair. My dad bought this for me years ago and ran it for a little bit, but had issues with the fuse holders missing. If you could work your magic, that would be great. I've been absent from the airways for years and would love to get back on the air. I use CB radio to get myself through a hard time in life. I'm going to skip over that whole section. It holds special place in my heart. Would really appreciate it. I've been burnt really bad by name omitted. I'm not going to talk about the technician with equipment. I never got it back because of this. I put the mic down. See, so this technician burning him made him get out of radio for a little bit. So he's putting his toe back in the water and he's sending this to me and seeing how this goes. Kind of like a social experiment, I guess. Life goes on, and I look forward to hearing from this amp screaming LOL. Thanks for the video and the education. Well, Mr. B, I'm not the other guy. And I can apologize to you for the other guy, but don't hold your emotions towards the other guy at me. I'm just doing my thing. I'm a completely different human being. Just happen to be in the same field. Only difference is we do things here instead of talking about them and taking people's money, I guess. Anywho, Repower wire upgrade on this. It is missing the meter on the front. And thanks to my good friend Zane at Big Rig Radio in Phoenix, Arizona, right there at the Flying J or Danny's truck stop. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the Danny's truck stop. He was kind enough to get with every distributor in the country and proceed to liquidate them for most of their parts. So in this box, I would argue is some of the last remaining Texas Star meters in the United States at the moment. And mine's white, not yeller. Isn't that cool? So you're going to get a new faceplate. I actually got Texas Star relays, legit directly from Texas Star or Galaxy. And we'll get this thing squared away. I don't see us having much of a problem, but the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to straighten out the tin. It's like I told you on the phone, Mr. B. Some more lights and faces. The faces are the hardest things to find right now. From what I understand, most of the Texas Star stuff is on back order. I have my opinions on that, and I should probably just keep those opinions to myself because I'm not the one in the actual physical place of in the knowing. I just hear whatever other people tell me. The distributors and so far for Texas Star, they're having a hard time getting them too. So, but this being a Texas Star with Toshibas in it, that's one 2290 driving 4 2879 Toshibas. Back when they were really a good amp because of the good parts inside. Makes this thing kind of special. Face is in decent shape, but let's go look at the bottom. A little bit of scuff wear going on here, but the heat sink being bent and bent and bent and bent. The scuff wear, that's not a big deal. Psst, little paint problem solved. Fins, not a big deal. The inner case, as you can see, this back corner is bent. Believe it or not, the front corner is also bent and bowed in. We'll get this fixed. All I got to do is bend this back out, tap this forward a little bit, it'll be fine. We'll get this all squared up. This is also bent in a little bit. This is the external keyer option that I've never seen wired in, not once. We're going to utilize this hole, and we're going to put a fan on the bottom of this. They do make aftermarket fan kits that are not Texas Star rated. They're for sale on eBay. They work. They've got really low profile fans in them. They don't move that much air, but they do work. They got little tiny rubber feet on them, and they're cute. Don't get me wrong, I like them. I prefer to go with a little bit thicker fan that is a little bit more aggressively doing the JOB. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hook him up with one of those. But yeah, first thing first, let's get this power wire issue dealt with, and we'll come back around and see what we've got good and not good in this amplifier. So when we return, the power wires will be in, the new ones that we're going to put 8 gauge in here, and we'll have a power wire going this way, another one going that way, and another one going over here. And yeah, away we go. Here we go. Okay, moving right along. Power wires are out of it. Got the heat sink kind of squared up on the edges, that is. Got that looking like new. Got it all cleaned out and blown out. Because we don't want to go through the expense of re-anodizing the heat sink, and we want to try and return this to something that we can stand to look at all day long. We're going to very lightly paint the edges of the sink, this side and this side, but we're going to leave the center of this pretty much unmolested. So the paint will act as an insulator a little bit, so we don't want to go and like paint the whole thing, but we want to coat this down with some gloss black. This too, just lightly coat it, because there's not going to be a lot of work done by this outside edge heatsink. What we're trying to do is clean up the scuff mark and stuff on the side and make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So that's what we're shooting to do. Just a really light coat of paint, just out here, so it looks good to the eye, but we're not hindering the anodized coating and the heatsink from doing its job. So, and anodized coating is another whole conversation I've had in the past. I did a bunch of research about this, about how the anodizing helps. Anodizing really helps wick the heat off the component and spread it over a bigger area. And it's really powerful, especially in computers, where they have a small IC and a very small contact foot to the heatsink. And we're talking a little tiny heatsink like this big. To get it to propagate the heat more uniformly across the heatsink, the anodized coating works and helps a bunch. I think the reason that they anodize this has nothing to do with heat distribution. I think it has more to do with aesthetics, because this is a huge hunk of heatsink for the number of transistors that are on it, as long as you put air on it. So anyhow, I'm getting off topic. Let me go shoot this with some paint. We'll be back. Okay, so heatsink all painted up, cleaned up. Given the paint long enough to harden, so now we can work on it. Don't have to worry about damaging the paint. So, I mean, this is just the lightest coat of paint, you guys. You don't want to get carried away, because like I said, that paint can get in the way of making the heatsink work properly. It's not something we want to do. Okay, now let's do the power wire upgrade, and then we'll test it, but we'll circle back around and we'll change these out too. Let's make sure our faceplate's working and all the transistors are working before we get too excited here. Okay. Power wire upgrades are done. It's all pretty. So now let's figure out if it's working or not. Let's first turn our radio up. Preamp's working, we know that. Okay, it's keying up. That's a good sign. Hello. Oh, we are making a little bit of power. Check this out. Hello. Okay, we don't want to key it too much like this. There's something wrong. So let's go over here and let's take a look at what we got for results. Let's grab our FLIR. And our combiner is getting smoking hot. That's our combiner. Let's look at our transistors. Okay, these are ice cold. So I'm going to put my finger up here. Just take a picture of that. And we're going to put our finger here at the bottom. Take a picture of that. So now, bring this camera around. Now let's shut off our lights. Might make it easier for you guys in TV land to be able to see this. I think we might have some pop pills. Okay. No, still not in really good clarity. Shit. Hello, audio. Okay, so these heat spots here are the transistors in the back of the amplifier. And these are the ones up front. Hello, audio. So transistor straight on. That's the transistor straight on. I guess I'll have to insert the photos in the video editing and post. These two front pills aren't working. They're dead. So usually what happens is one transistor goes bad. They're both not doing anything. And now I've let my mind relax a few seconds. I see our problem. That is supposed to be a 1.8 ohm resistor. And it's supposed to look like this one that's over here in the back corner. See that little tiny resistor down there next to the blue capacitor, right there? It's called death by bias. Transistors went open, popped open this little tiny 1/4 watt resistor. Somebody tried to replace it with something else, and it put too high a voltage onto these transformers. And it killed both of those pills. Let me show you what I mean. Seen this before, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. Okay, so this is not the proper way to test your bias, by the way. We would do that by putting this here and then going to this setting here and measuring how much current it's actually pulling. But to give you a demonstration that this circuit's out of control, we're going to clip onto this input transformer. Let's recycle that. 6.5. Hello, audio. See, it falls down to 3.6 or 0.36 of a volt. Hello, audio. It's over a volt. That's a death nail for those Toshibas. They're dead. It's too much input voltage, period. Well, this just got radically more expensive. This went from a couple $100 nightmare to a really expensive nightmare for this guy. The Toshiba price being what it is today, I mean, if I put 2 used transistors in here, it's still $150 a piece, right? So it's an additional $300 on top of the rest of this. So it's usually cheaper, it says parentheses, to take out the Toshibas and replace them with HGs, but they don't have. Let's see what the customer opts to do. Let me call the customer real quick. Man, this sucks. Well, first things first is we're gonna tear this 2-pill section apart, this bit here. And rip this apart, and let's really identify what we got going on. I know that those 2 transistors are popped, but this is a tough one. I mean, we went from, okay, we're gonna do power wire and upgrade and just a couple different things, and we're gonna straighten the cabinet and get that mess all messed out, to, oh, hey, guess what? Your one option is like $150. That's HG it. Your other option is $500 for 2 new ones, or your other option is $300. That's a tough bend for anybody to take, man. That's, you know, I know what that's like today. Hell, I'm getting windows done on my truck today. Somehow that went from being like $300 to $800. It is what it is. So I'm going to do this all on video, although I'm going to do it through time lapse, because I don't feel you guys want to sit here and listen to me talk for this amount of time. As much as I love the sound of my own voice, I'm sure there's a few of you that think I monologue too much. So let's go ahead and let's rip this apart. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Got the door hanging open today. It's beautiful outside. Short. Short. Junk. All right. I'm kind of curious what resistor they put in here. It's got me curious, anyhow. Let's grab our voltometer. Let's see what was in here. Hmm. 2.6 ohms. That would have been okay if it would have been 1.6 ohms, but that's what's going in there. Okay, let's I think I got a used set that have 50 on them for a beta gain. I think that'll do the job adequately. But before we go any further, I'm going to take this thing outside because it's such a beautiful day. And we're going to give this old girl a bath. So here's before with all the flux on it and dirt. Let's go give it a bath. Oh, this poor amp. Okay, so I'm going to show you one thing and then I'm going to explain to you another. And I'm not going to call my customer about this. I'm just going to fix it for him because he's having a bad day. Okay, so got the final section put together. I go and hit it and I got no output power again. I'm like, what in the freaking holy bejesus Batman? So right now I've got the driver section bypass. This is where the RF comes out, then it goes through this resistor, goes through blah, 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 blah. I got the whole driver section bypassed. So I got this big long piece of wire and it's attached to the input splitter over here. So that's a 1,000 watt slug and peak on the right hand side, 1,000 an average on the left. We're hitting this with my 490, so we're simulating the 2290 and they're driving it. Hello, audio. Hello, 1212. Hello. Okay, so we know the final section's working. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How could the driver section, this portion of things, be negatively affected by this situation? Like, what in the hell? What in the hell? So if we look down here, we'll see this little tiny bar right here. See this bar right here? Well, that bar, if I scoot the camera over, get the right angle for you all to be able to view it, it takes off right at this resistor right here. It goes across and it attaches to the input leg of the transistor. I was like, oh yeah. So when we replaced this reference resistor that was high, the bias control for the driver is attached to the same circuit, and the driver section also got whacked by the same voltage. So it's not only 2 pills, it's 3 that have gone bad because of somebody else's desire to be, I don't know, they're trying to fix it themselves. So this poor guy. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of tempted to put a 2879 HG in there. Yeah, let's see what this thing will do. Probably about 800 watts. I'm not gonna tell him. He can find out when he watches the video because I'm not gonna charge him any more money. He's been kicked in the crotch enough today. Let's fix this. I don't know if you guys have ever had the pleasure of taking one of these driver sections apart, but it's a little bit of a challenge. They've got everything hanging off the legs of the transistor. It kind of sucks, but from this angle we can clearly see here, right down in here, where that bias circuitry is tied in, and it comes across and it ties into this leg. That's the reason this thing is dead. So let's bust out the solder sucker and let's get the job done here, I guess. Poor amp. It's been beat up, broken, used, but it's all back to working now. Okay, so 1,000 watt slug and peak there on the right. Hello, audio. We're gonna put 20 watts of drive into it. 20 watts of drive at 15 volts flat. Hello, audio. We get a very decent, honorable 600 watts. Okay. Now what's in here is a 22 or 2879 HG for a driver. I want to show you something. We're going to disconnect this one resistor. Just lifted up the leg of this one resistor off of ground. So we're only hitting this with 20 watts, not like 30 or 40 watts. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. That's 725 watts with 20 watts of drive. Not bad. Not bad. So it's back to its former glory. And it's running right now. Everything in here is actually correct-ish. I'm going to change this out to 316 coax, these 2 leads. Fix the meter, put a fan on it. This is a bummer, but it's working. It's all working. So there, we're done. Let's do the coax next. So your dad drilled 4 holes in this. I'm assuming he had it mounted someplace, my friend, but I went ahead and put body plugs in it to keep it from getting dirt in it. You're all finished. Let's come on down here and let's take a look at this. You're all finished. Got 316 coax upgrade. The fan has been installed. Heat sink is transformed back into something functional. Turn on the power switch. Guess what? Fan turns on. So we'll turn on our power supply, and I gotta slide you guys over here to the right. It's got a brand new meter on the front of it. It's all installed. All your lights have been repaired. It's running just like a Swiss watch now. Hello, audio, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, audio, audio. Hello, 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 hello. So let's see here. Hello. Dial-o-watt's working. Sideband delay is working. Let's run this thing on sideband real quick. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, audio, 1, 2. Take it out of SSB. Hello, audio. Hello, audio. Let's run it in SSB without the SSB switch in. Hello, audio. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm happy. It started out its day poor, broke, sad, not working anymore. It's ending its day in one piece, ready to leave here and go have fun in the rest of the world. I don't know where your case screws got off to for this thing. If I'm not mistaken, I never had them. It's going to come back in the same bag that you had it packed in. That should help protect the faceplate. I did save that, so we'll slide it back in there. Brother man, you're all set. We're done. We're done and done. Gentlemen, I appreciate you tuning in and following along with this saga. This is how I spent a good portion of my day, that and on the phone. So I want to say thanks. One more 667 out there, fixed, 10-8 and straight. And one more guy well on his way to being 10-8 and straight. Gentlemen, I thank every single one of you. We're on to the next one. We'll see you. Click, click, click.